from the University of California, San Diego, Michael Rausch. Michael is a program manager with the university, currently focused on the use of data and analytics to bring greater clarity and transparency to the university's capital program. So Michael, take it away.
Thanks, Joe. I'm glad to be here and share some of UC San Diego's approach to managing capital program cost. Before I jump into the presentation, just a little bit of background on what our journey's been like getting to the point where we are today. We implemented eBuilder back in 2010, and the first 7 years of using the program, it was almost like 7 one-year versions of the same first year. We really didn't do a lot with it. We used it for some of its basic features. And then after we had our first mega project, which gave us the ability to jump in and really do some customization and see exactly what the power of the system would be, we decided to roll that out for the entire capital program, and that set us up nicely for where we are today. So what I'm going to be covering really in 4 sections. I'm going to cover a little bit of the background on our capital program because it in terms of its scope is kind of why we got to where we are. I'm going to talk a little bit about our data-centric approach, the steps that we went to get there, and share some ideas with how I think you can do the same thing in your organization. And then I'll look at our capital program dashboards. I'm going to show you how we manage program and project health, and also how we manage cost and schedule for all of our projects. So first, about the capital program, it really represented a lot of unprecedented growth on campus. By the numbers, UC San Diego is about 40,000 in students. We have close to 39,000 full part-time faculty and staff. It's a sizable campus, but from a physical campus, it's interesting. We have 8 colleges, so it's actually set up almost like 8 community colleges that work together as one major university. And that's something that's done on purpose. So it gives that sort of small college feel to a major campus. And one of the big pushes that we had was housing our students. In 2014, we undertook our first real strategic plan, and that was focused on where the university was going to be headed. We had hit our 60-year anniversary, and a major focus, actually 3 major focuses that affected our capital construction were student housing. We were always under-housed for the students and needed to do something to really increase those numbers. The goal was to add close to 11,000 beds over the course of those few years. Research collaboration with industry. We have a lot of local partners, research, biotech, that work directly with us on campus. So that starts to impact our buildings and how they work to have shared space. And something I thought was really interesting was setting the university up as a cultural destination. The San Diego actually extended a trolley line into our campus for 2 stops, one on the main campus and one at the Med Center. And there was a goal to really create this as a destination. We have a lot of restaurants on campus, major art collection with outdoor art all over the campus, the Stewart collection, and an amphitheater. So the goal was to really enhance the public realm to make it more of a destination. Few of the projects that are currently underway are these I'm showing here. Our capital program pre-COVID was anticipated to be roughly $1 billion a year of design and construction for about 7 years. Today it's a little bit less. I'm not sure exactly where things are shaking out. Some of the projects that went on a pause in March of 2020 are now coming back, slightly reimagined, maybe a little bit smaller, but it's still a sizable program. So some of the buildings I'm showing here, the Design and Innovation Building in Franklin Antonio Hall on the top row, those are examples of buildings that have shared space with local companies, local researchers that come in and work directly with the students and faculty. We do have a downtown presence now. We purchased a high-rise that was a developer high-rise that was actually under construction for our UC San Diego extension. That's on the trolley line and also connects directly into campus to the trolley stop in Pepper Canyon. The Hillcrest Outpatient Pavilion, we have two medical campuses at the university. We have one in La Jolla, which is our main campus, and then we also have a Hillcrest campus with a hospital that's just north of downtown San Diego. And that's not a seismically compliant hospital, so we're in the process of rebuilding an entire replacement. This outpatient pavilion is the first phase. 8th College, over on the right, lower right corner, that's the latest college we're building on campus. And what we tend to do now, we are building in parking lots. We're building in every kind of open area that we had designated in our long-range development plan. And these are like these are mega projects on their own with high-rise student housing, mixed-use facilities built all at one time. The center of the bottom row, Pepper Canyon Amphitheater, that's actually at the trolley stop, and that's going to be an outdoor concert hall entertainment venue that's open to the public. So we'll start to draw more public on campus. So our data-centric approach, this was really focused on bringing predictability into the capital program. With the number of projects that we have ongoing at any given time, we needed to come up with a way to capitalize on the data that we already had in the system. And how does that give us some level of transparency into project health? How are the projects doing? Where are the risks? And where do we want to emphasize our time with the number of projects that we have active at any given moment? So the steps that we went through to get there, it just doesn't happen all at once, but you really have to foster a data-centric culture. And that's a culture that values the use of the data, the accuracy of the data, and what that can actually give to the project managers and the leadership on campus. First step we went through was to identify our KPIs and metrics. Those are the things that are going to be unique to your program in terms of how do you view projects? How do you know where to go to provide support to projects, project teams, project managers, or deal with issues as they're currently starting to happen on projects before they become a major issue that impacts cost or schedule? We did this by trying to capture as much data as possible in our processes. We went through a systematic rebuild of almost every process we had in the system to look at how we captured data, to maintain consistency, and try and do it in a transparent way. The last thing staff wants to hear is there's now yet another process they have to do or more information that's required. So if we can do something that captures that automatically without them even being aware of it or knowing that they have to do anything different, they just do their normal course of work, and we get all this information that's saved into our system. So that was a major effort that we undertook. Second was to really ditch the spreadsheets. Our goal was to make eBuilder the single source of truth for the entire capital program. That means no extra spreadsheets that the PMs can have on their own. Spreadsheets are great as a tool to do specific tasks on a project. But in terms of managing data long-term and trying to keep them up to date, it's really difficult. And we had a lot of issues where project managers had their own budget, their own schedule. There was something different in eBuilder, and they weren't in agreement. That was a real problem for us. So we tried to build tools that would make it easy to do the right thing. We're also identifying our champions. There's some people that get this right up front, some PMs that see the value in it, and they're excited to jump in, use the data, help out in any way, and they can also help get others to adopt what we're trying to roll out. It's not that easy. We're still in the process of doing that. That's going to take some time, and not everyone has the same skill sets in the department, and that's always a bit of a struggle with them. The other thing is just to really be consistent. Updates are required. They're not just there for the overachievers. So we do have some dashboards that are driven directly by processes that get updated. That has to happen. We take the approach that if it isn't an e-builder, it didn't take place on the project. I'm going to show some examples of the dashboards that we have in place now for managing program and project health. First one is a program health overview. This dashboard is driven by a monthly project status process that the PM updates. It shows up live in their court on the first of every month. It's completed by the 10th, and it's a simple process that updates the status, pulls in cost and schedule information, serves two purposes. It drives this dashboard, and it also serves as an executive overview on a website that all the vice chancellors on campus can access. So they can, if a vice chancellor is over student housing, they can go in and they can see all of their projects that are under construction. What's a high-level description of what's happening? What are the things they can expect to see in the next few months on the project? That sort of a thing. We look at it a lot from the project health side. We have a very simple classification of red, yellow, and green for our projects. It is subjective. It's there as a communication tool for the PM's use to just let people know how things are going. Yeah, it's very simple. Green is all is good. Yellow represents, there's some issues, but it's under control. And red is, we really need some help. This is getting to the point that we can't solve it within the current team and we need some help. So this dashboard is live and it's updated on a monthly basis. I'm going to walk through some of the widgets and explain exactly what they do and show how we use them. The first one, number one, that just lists all of the projects grouped by PM. So you can look at a PM, see the projects they have that are active or in closeout, and what's the status of the project, what's the health, is it red, yellow, green. Can also have some, provide some clues if there's some, maybe some consistency in the colors with a PM, maybe an issue with staffing, a little bit of an overload on projects. That can point out some issues where the director might need to step in and help out a bit. The second widget is just a breakdown of the projects by health. So that just gives you a very high level view for leadership in the department of where we are in all of our projects. So in this case, we have 66 green projects, 25 yellow, and 4 that are red. I'm going to show you on the next slide how that really comes into play, but that's a really quick overview of where the focus might need to be applied to help the project teams. The third widget is one that no one wants to be on. That's the list of people who haven't updated their statuses. So what happens there is on the first of every month, everything shows up in the project manager's court. Everyone's on this list, and they go through the process of updating that, submitting it, and when they do, they drop off of this list. By the 10th, when we export all the information, we'll have a really good understanding of what projects didn't get updated. It's not always an issue. Sometimes the updates are still very current, but if it is something that we need to jump in and make some things happen to get some updates in there, or if there's other problems that we need to address, that'll give us a smaller list of projects that we need to focus on. Those are basically filters. You can actually slice and dice the other widgets any way you want to based on director, program, project manager. And then the fifth widget is it's a simple breakdown of the number of projects per key stakeholder. So that would be based on the different vice chancellors on our campus. That's how we're organized. So there would be a vice chancellor for the med center. There'll be the number of projects they have. It's just an idea of where a lot of our work is focused and the types of projects that we're doing. Now, I did mention the program or the project health breakdown, the 3 color blocks in the center of the top. What happens with that is you have the ability to click on a widget. So if you see there are 4 red projects, you want to really understand what's going on, you can click on that and this little window will pop up. That'll again list the breakdown of who are the PMs, what are the projects, but it also has one other key piece of information. When the PM does their project status update every month, there's an area where they can type in their notes as to what happened. Why is it red now? Why did it go to yellow? Things like that, just to kind of alert everyone of what's going on and where they may need some assistance. So those notes will pop up. We've also made it so that every one of these widgets is portable. You could actually click on it, export it as an Excel worksheet or a PDF, take it with you to a meeting, actually take it to sit down with the project manager and review things. So we're trying to make these things multifunction. And the one thing I like about the dashboards like this is they're like living dashboards. This is what we have today. There are going to be other ideas that come up that we can implement, and we can add those in tomorrow and just continually keep the dashboard fresh and current with all the new trends that we have on projects that we're trying to track. The other dashboard that we use for this is one that focuses more on the project level health. And this is the dashboard we have currently. We're actually right now updating this. I have nothing to show at this point, but this is where we are today, and I can give you a little idea of what we're going to be adding to this. But this takes simply what you saw on the other dashboard, and this dives into the detail of the project. And the intent of this is something that could be used when the director sits down and meets with the PM, when they meet bi-weekly or whatever their meeting cadence is like. They can pull this up and actually see just a quick overview of what's going on the project. The first widget's a simple, very simple, high-level project budget summary. So it's looking at what's our current budget, which is what we've agreed to do the project for, what's our estimate of completion, and what sort of variation do we have from that. We do try and project over and under budget on projects. That's also very helpful when we start talking about cost and cash flow, but we do track that. The second widget deals with project risk. We update this through a form in every project, and this came in very handy at the start of COVID. We had several different reason codes, as an example, of what COVID impacts could be on a project. And this was an easy way for us to track and isolate those and see projects that were under construction, what issues were we having, what were the potential costs. Again, it is a simple form, but that allows those issues to show up here and be visible to everyone. Third widget is only for construction projects, and that's really dealing with change orders and causality. So it'll give you a quick breakdown of the reason codes, what's happening on projects, why it's happening. If you see, certain, say, trying to think like coordination issues, maybe we're having a lot of coordination issues on the project. That may be a clue that you need to spend some more time, potentially bring in an outside reviewer of documents to take a look and do a quick review to make sure we have everything covered and we're addressing a lot of the scope gaps. So it's a little bit of a forethought of what could be happening or what could be coming in the pipeline for cost. Things that we're adding to this are going to be more of the information that we have in the project status process. So some quick overviews, give a better idea of what is being presented to the vice chancellors. We have our major stakeholders that may not know a lot about the project or what's happening on a daily basis. We'll be able to visualize that. And we're going to be putting some schedule information on here as well. Now, when it comes to managing cost and schedule, I'm going to show you some examples of some of the things we do that I think are a little bit different. With the size of the capital program that we have, naturally, cost over time is a major issue for us, something we always want to be on top of. There's a large amount of money moving through the system on a fiscal year basis, and some of our stakeholders, like our medical center, they utilize hospital reserves for a lot of projects. It's very important for them to understand what their capital spend is going to be like fiscal year by fiscal year. So to do that, we started with a series of schedule templates. We developed this process on our first mega project. It was the Jacobs Medical Center, and we tied cost and schedule together for that to generate some automated cash flows so they could see what the financial impact of every fiscal year looked like. We rolled that out to the rest of the program. So we have several project schedule templates based on delivery model. These are very high level schedule templates. So your typical schedule will be 7 to 9 lines of tasks that are all tied into master tasks in the system. And based on the delivery model, that's the schedule template that gets applied. There's a corresponding cash flow template that ties into it that links every line of the budget to schedule bars and a resource curve associated with that that could be changed by the PM or modified as they need to do so for their project. But this allows us to generate automated cash flows on any given regularity. So it updates every morning to take into account any actuals that have hit the books during that time period and keeps that up to date. We have quite a few cash flow reports that we've built that we use for different things. But the one I wanted to show you here was a capital forecast report. This is a custom report that eBuilder built for us a few years ago. And it kind of brings together everything we were trying to get out of this that we were having trouble doing on our own. And what this does for our projects is we can sort this by vice chancellor area, by project type, lists out our current budget, what our estimate of completion is. We'll actually show a breakdown of our capital forecast over a 5-year fiscal period. So it's always a consistent 5-year period. Shows what we're projecting for the current year and then what we've actually spent. So there's a bit of a reality check in terms of, are you actually spending what you're thinking you're going to, or do you need to make some adjustments in the links in the cash flow and schedule? The other nice thing about this report is that it is an Excel-based report. So it generates a report that exports out of the system. We can now use that to take to meetings and even edit. It has all of the formulas tied directly into Excel, so it exports with the formulas and allows you to do some quick scenarios and updates. So it's like our own portable version of the planning module. It allows us to do that. We also have a status for our projects of future project, which allows us to take, potentially, I showed you a slide of the 8th college, the image of that in our projects. Let's say there's a 9th college and we have an idea of when that's going to hit. What's the design and construction timeline look like? We could put together a very high level schedule, very high cash flow, add it into this and start to look at what the impact would be over the upcoming fiscal years. The other thing we do with schedule, and I think this is unique to our capital program, with the amount of construction we're doing on campus at any given time, we can impact ourselves basically. We like to think we're the only game in town, but we are one of the major players, but there are a lot of other major projects going on. So there's always a competition for talent, for contractors, for subcontractors and architects. So this gives us the ability with our schedules to look at really how things do overlap. And when it comes to construction, we have a couple of things that we do. One is actually tie our schedules into an ArcGIS map of the campus. It's a construction activity map. The area you see labeled number 1, that is the 8th college project. You can see it takes up a sizable area on campus that's bordered off for all the construction activity. We started finding a lot of overlaps. We can take that map and we can actually look at it year over year into the future and see what's actually going to be taking place. And we started finding that a lot of our construction areas on upcoming projects were starting to overlap with projects that wouldn't be completed in time. Finding major impacts to contractor parking, which has a direct correlation to the construction cost. And this allows us to start to look at that strategically, and that in combination with some reports that we've built to look at the overlap of construction phases, we've actually taken a step back and we've delayed bidding on projects just so we can start to stagger this and not overload the market at any one time. That's been a huge benefit for us. So what's next? We do have a lot of things in the pipeline now. It seems like we're always making enhancements to the system, which is also always not well received, as you always continue to update the ways that you need to do things and how it impacts the project managers. But we're trying to really get the value out of the system, and we're spending a lot of time refining our current dashboards. Some of the ones I've showed you have some ongoing enhancements now that will be coming out later this fall. We're also starting to expand the dashboard options to include more metrics for business operations and process performance. We're always asked about the value that our department brings. We're a recharge unit, so we do have a percent of our time that goes towards projects. There's always question as to how does that stack up? How was it? What was it like last year? So anytime we're asked a question a couple of times, we're looking now, how do we go about building a dashboard to answer that? So all we have to do is pull it up and we have the information right there. So that's going to be coming later this fall as well. Down the road, we are looking at cost metrics too. We went live in 2010. We imported a lot of information from Prolog, so we actually have older information in the system as well. And we would like to see how we can start to get some value out of that, really look at our own cost metrics, our own benchmarking, even in a relationship of hard to soft costs, fee to construction costs, things like that, and start to have that information available as we build out cost metrics for new projects as they're coming up. So there's a lot of things in the hopper that we're working on. Hopefully we'll have those and be able to share those at a later date. But this is really how we're approaching things. It's very focused on the data we have available and trying to make the best use of it possible. So thank you for giving me the time to share this. I'm always available to answer any questions that you have. My contact information is there, and I'm happy to help in any way. Thank you.